just a few short years ago, this is what I looked like. We have 4 cards that released. 2 of them today really, in my mind, stood out above the other 2, but we have to start at the very top. So largely the same outside of the fact that both of those forearms then were completely blank, and today, of course, they are nearly covered with items around T206 and early Americana cigarette tobacco packages. But before we dive into this video and my next upcoming tattoo appointment, I did want to give that video a shout out, because if you are thinking about releasing any sort of content around anything that you like, absolutely put it out. I don't for a second recall me recording that video. That was done in the middle of 2021 when I was doing Project 70 content, and then before that Project 2020. But it's just really neat to be able to go back and watch those videos again, see myself, hear myself. So if you want to put out content, absolutely do it. Even if only one other person watches it, you will value that content in the next 3 to 4 years when you can see yourself in the past. So as the majority of you know, if not maybe you will know now, the left arm is my complete tribute and sort of journey around completing my T206 polar bear set. My original series introduction video, which I'll link above, goes through the why behind every one of these cards. Now, the right arm, I have released a small video. I think I brought over a reel from Instagram. It didn't probably do a very good job of explaining what is on the right arm. So let's take a look at what this is, but this is going to be a tribute to my upcoming completion of my T206 Old Mill Southern League set. But then I also wanted to put different backs I really like, and then also cigarette packages from some of the maybe harder to find T206 cards, but ones that I really liked. And of course, there will also be Easter eggs included in this overall design. On the left arm, there were 3 Easter eggs included, the largest one being the transition of the orange, yellow to blue. That is the background, the sunset of the Ty Cobb bat off shoulder. But I'll discuss those Easter eggs on this right arm here in the coming months, as I still have about 3 appointments left. The next one being this upcoming Saturday. But let's take a look at the original outline of the cards that are on my arm. And when I say cards, they're more likely cigarette tobacco packages and card backs. But first up, we have here the centerpiece of the overall design. This is the Old Mill cigarette tobacco package. If you see this in real life, it is very, very tiny, but this is on the upper part of my right arm. Then when you come around the side, you have the Ooze It tobacco package. Now, when you go back to early time period piece around Ooze It, we say Ooze It, but back in the day, they said use it. It was a slogan, so you would use the product, and use it was used in many, many different products back in the day, but now we say Ooze It, but this is the Use It cigarette tobacco package. Below the Use It, it is going to be Dolly Stark, Southern League Old Mill. This was my very first T206 Southern Leaguer pickup back when I first started collecting these cards back in 2019. And so I thought it was a great sort of token or memory of, after I complete my Old Mill set, Dolly Stark being my very first one. And then completing the Old Mill Southern League trifecta, we have, of course, the most important part. That is that very distinct and unique card back for the Old Mill Southern League card. And then, of course, adjacent to that Old Mill back, we have the Hindu elephant from the Hindu cigarette package. And then from there, we move down to the lower wrist. We have that Lenox wax stamp. And then the last final remaining images that are on my arm right now, we have on the lower inner wrist, we have the Carolina Brights cigarette package, followed by the American Beauty 350 card back. And then on the very, very back of my arm, which is hard to see, we have the Drum cigarette tobacco package. But now let's add a little color to some of those outlines and see what it looks like at this moment. This is really sort of a video of a moment in time, because after this upcoming Saturday, I'm gonna have more of the elements colored in. But first, we have that elephant with the Hindu yellow. It does look a little bit orange in this photo just because this was right after it was done, but there is that elephant from the Hindu package. You then see the Lenox stamp, that red wax stamp, and then of course those leaves are meant to be tobacco leaves throughout the overall design. I'm going to black out any part of the skin that's in between those to really highlight that yellow. And then of course I have to give Stephanie an amazing shout out because her line work amongst everything else, which is amazing for both of my arms, her line work is outstanding. There is that old mill Southern League card back. It looks like it was printed onto my arm, but no, that is an actual artist putting the back of the card onto my arm. And so we will go back in and we will color in the American Beauty, the Old Mill with that sort of tannish color so they don't look unfinished. And now if you're curious if there were any elements that did not make the cut, there were two packages that I really wanted to include, one being the broadleaf cigarette package and then the Cycle cigarette guy. I just liked the way that bicycle guy on the Cycle looked, but when we did the final layout, I just couldn't find room for those two. I don't know if they'll ever make it on to anywhere else on my body, but as of right now, I couldn't be happier with where this entire design finished and what it really speaks to, because when you look at some of the T206 population counts, Use It, Carolina Brights, and Drum are some of the very, very hardest and rarest backs in the set. So that's kind of Easter egg number one in my overall design, and sometimes the best place to hide something is in plain sight. And now the question that I always get when people ask me around these sleeve tattoo designs is, does it hurt? Look, it's annoying. I don't find it that painful, but I will tell you these areas right here, aka the ditch, they are very painful, and so I am not looking forward to doing this ditch here in a couple of weeks. I know the last one here, Ray Dimmett's belt, I was regretting every single moment of the fact that we put a very detailed area right there in the ditch. But outside of that, the elbow is, you know, your arm kind of falls asleep. It's just numbing because it's the consistent bouncing off of your elbow. But overall, it's just like a checklist. You have to do 1,000 needle pokes to complete the design, and once everyone is done, that's a check mark on a checklist. So to me, it's like completing a set. It's not a continuous journey. It's 4-second stop, 5-second stop, 6-second stop. And that, by the way, is not me advocating for you to go out and get your own tattoo, but if you want to do it, I would highly recommend it. I find the process, the journey incredibly satisfying, and to see the finished product, it's just amazing. Although I would never ever tattoo anyone living, I very rarely collect players who are living. I only want to put my money in dead players because no dead player is ever going to create a headline at 2 a.m. on TMZ. But I'm curious, if you are thinking about getting a sports card tattoo, what would it be of and where would you put it at? Leave a comment below around what you would love to do from a tattoo perspective from a sports card world. And if you want to learn more about T206 and the players with a polar bear back T206 card, hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button.